Okay, so now we're gonna hook up our pattern. And once again, this is another Ride-Tech bar that we've modified. So same rules with this bar, these ends, with your sleeves that are gonna slide into those ends.
Sorry about it.
So now, you're gonna take a look at this. As he lays that in, he's gotta put those sleeves in. And you can see the bent end is what goes to the rear end itself. And there you go. Now, there'll be, obviously, there's an adjustment on that bar, on Pete's side here. That will allow you to move this rear end laterally and get it centered, okay? These Fords, these later Fords, we found most of your Fords have an offset drivetrain. Typically, earlier stuff about 1 inch to 2 inches. These later Fords, the driveline offset is about 4 inches. So you really can't work off trying to center it based on where the pinion is located. The best way to do any of these as far as setting that, centering up the rear, really and truly is to basically measure, say, from here, the inside of your flange, or this flange, depending on which way you want to go. This is typically a little easier to hang a tape measure on, okay, to the inside of the rail at a common point on both sides. Like I say, these bolts are common, so they're a good location to kind of measure from here to this side here and get yourself an equal measurement on each side. And that's what that pinion adjustment is going to do for you. Okay, you'll basically loosen this nut, set that, you know, it's a little bit of a tedious setup because you're going to have to take that out, in and out a couple of times to make sure you set it. Okay, but you'll do that once you get that equal measurement, then you can basically lock down this nut and you're good to go when you know the rear end's going to stay centered as you're running through your suspension travel.
Nice.
Okay, so now, believe it or not, we are just about done with this installation.
We have to jack that up and get these jack stands out.
The last section now is going to be basically bolting on the bottom mounts of your coilovers. So what we're going to do now is jack the rear up, take it off of its stands, and then we'll be able to drop the rear down where the coilovers, which are now obviously, since they're loaded, they're at full extension, they're not at ride height. These coilovers, these are a 4-inch travel Ride-Tech coilover. These are designed to be set at about 12.5 inches eye to eye, center of eye to center of eye, at ride height. That's going to be your target. You do have a little wiggle room in there, but you really don't want to move too far past that 12.5-inch mark. All right, the advantage you do have is, and you'll see, we set this up where you've got these adjustment holes. The advantage is we set these typically where it's going to be that second hole from the bottom. So you can play with this some by, if you want it to sit a little lower, you go to this hole. Okay, if you want the truck to sit a little higher, you can go up to this hole. And that way you'll still be able to maintain the 12.5-inch eye to eye measurement, or close to it, and still have the ride height sitting a little different. Now, guys will often tell you, ideally, 4 bars should be about parallel at ride height. Yes, that's true. There is some margin for error there, that you can play with. It's not absolutely positively critical unless you're really kind of going to be stressing optimal performance and road coursing, that kind of thing. You know, this is what you have to look at. Some of these applications, it's more about what you're going to do with the vehicle and how you're going to use it than what's theoretically perfect. Okay.
Gonna have that black hammer there, Joe?
So now you see the fun part is working through the backside here to get the nut and the washer in there. And as you can see, Joe's got the flat washer in there, and he's setting up his lock nut now. And we'll set those up. Now you will find Joe's went in nice and easy. Obviously the rear end sitting on a jack sometimes will move differently on each side. So now Pete's got to play with that side a little bit and get that bolt hole lined up, and we'll be good to go there.
Did you get your nut started, Joe?
I can start. Just need to lock it down.
Yeah, no problem.
So, as you can see, this installation is pretty well done. Now, what we're doing this now would be the time to go back and check all the bolts and then tighten them up and do a final torque on them. Okay, like I said, since this is a prototype, we did all that as we were putting it together because it's been together a few times. Okay, but in a case like yours, where it's the first time installation, you would want to wait on all that final tightening till you're at this point now, and then go back and retighten everything and double check everything. All right. Next video on the way.